The Utah Utes, they lose the Rose Bowl yesterday to Penn State in ugly fashion, 35-21. If you did not see it, Cam Rising chose to take on, I believe, the entire Penn State team on a run.
Right.
And re-injured his knee. And it appears that he is headed for a long recovery based on what Kyle Whittingham said. That it is a significant injury that will require a procedure, that will require a long recovery process. It is not known what that means to Cam Rising's future as a Utah Ute quarterback, or if in fact he goes to the NFL. That is to be determined according to Kyle Whittingham. I think if he doesn't get hurt in that game, it's unquestionable that A, the Utes are in a much better position to come back and win that game, but B, that Cam Rising goes to the NFL. Mm-hmm. I think now it's almost by default he returns to the Utes. We'll see about that. But the question that this game leaves you with is that I believe Kyle Whittingham has to make significant changes to the offensive structure of this program. And I will continue to say, love is not too strong. I love Kyle Whittingham as a football coach. He's a spectacular human being. But at what point does Kyle Whittingham commit to being a better offensive football team? Because it's not good enough anymore that every quarterback who comes in here is far less of a C.J. Stroud type player and far more of Travis Wilson all over again. At what point do we get away from game managers who can throw the football, and do we get to prolific, pro-style, Caleb Williams, dual threat type quarterbacks who throw the football on the outside of the field to prolific, over-the-top, game-breaking wide receivers? At what point do we get 3 wide receivers instead of 2 tight ends who wind up injured because they're the only option to throw the football to in Utah's offense?
Yeah.
At what point do we stop putting the entire success and failure of the offense on Cam Rising and get him prolific wide receivers who can actually take the top off a defense and break a game open? At what point do we get back to balanced offense where we have 3 deep running backs that are game-changing running backs? With all due respect to what Jaquindon Jackson and to what Mekhi Bernard have done for this football team, at what point do we have 2 and 3 NFL caliber running backs at Utah and 4, 5, 6, 7 NFL caliber wide receivers at Utah football and 2 quarterbacks that are NFL caliber prospects at Utah football? Because I'm over watching this football team struggle to score points with the best teams in the country. And again, I understand it. I understand you scored a ton of points against USC. You scored a ton of points against Ohio State last year. But this year, I think we saw that the world came back, that Utah struggled in a lot of games to score enough to blow teams out, to be an elite team. I think you need significant change in the offensive philosophy at Utah. And the problem now is that Kyle Whittingham has a reputation of being a defense-first coach that doesn't embrace a pro-style, throw it all over the field offense. And if you're a quarterback in this country, and if you are Caleb Williams and you're in the transfer portal, you're not coming to Utah. Okay, maybe he was always going to USC. But think about all the other quarterbacks. Think about all the other wide receivers. Think about all the other running backs. None of them are coming to Utah because Utah doesn't play offense. They play defense.
Right.
And I'm burned out on that because this fan base, this institution, this team deserves better from the offense. And I know that the defense last night, look, I get it. You gave up big plays. I totally understand that. If defense was this club's biggest issue, this team would win multiple national championships.
Right.
But it's not. It's not. It's offense. Again, it's offense. Again, you have a situation where you don't have a wide receiver who can take the top off a defense and get you back in the game with one throw of the football. You don't have it. You don't have a quarterback With all due respect to Bryson, you don't have a quarterback who can come in and throw the ball down the field, because I don't know if the kid's capable. I'm sure he is, but he doesn't have wide receivers. He doesn't clearly have, in my opinion, an NFL caliber wide receiver who can get down the field and break a play. There's not a wide receiver on this team that you can throw a 5-yard slant to who can take it to the house. I just don't believe it. And I'm tired of hearing about the greatness of Devon Vele. With all due respect, he's not a number one receiver. He's not. I think a guy like Money Parks has the ability to be a number one receiver. But right now, yesterday in the Rose Bowl, he's not.
Yeah.
And we can sit here and we could talk about, oh, little brother down south, TDS, good luck.
Right.
We can sit here and we could talk about their, all of their shortcomings at BYU. But do you want to explain to me, Ute fan, how in the world is BYU 5, 6, 7 deep at wide receiver? And you ain't got one. Somebody explain that to me. How is that possible that BYU has running back depth, has offensive line depth, has wide receiver depth, and you don't? I don't understand it. How is it that you're going to tell me you're a national championship level program, but you don't have depth on offense? Oh, we're a defense first program. Now, last night you weren't, because you didn't play defense and you didn't play offense. I'm telling you, I love Kyle Whittingham. I respect the guy, but changes have to happen. Changes have to happen.
Keep it real.
And again, I understand that the transfer portal and JUCO pipelines are great at Utah. But at some point, we need the Utah Ute football program to recruit and develop studs on the outside. We need to recruit and develop studs on offense that are game-changing difference makers. Because I'll say this also, I don't know what Cam Rising was thinking, but that was stupid football.
Yeah.
What we saw from Cam Rising last night, you don't take on 3 defenders from Penn State and think you're going to walk away from that uninjured. It was a really dumb football decision. And if he's not going to slide, he can't be our quarterback. Period. End of story. If he will not get down, I don't want Cam Rising to be my quarterback. I want to go find somebody else, because you just can't outrun the injury bug. Look at Grayson McCall of Coastal Carolina. Probably the perfect example of this. That kid was going somewhere else until he got injured in the bowl game. That's just the reality of being a quarterback. So you're going to get hit throwing the football. You're going to get hurt throwing the football. So I don't need you taking on 3 linebackers and a safety and a corner at freaking Penn State. I just don't.
And that's how I look at it.
I am so frustrated that we sit here day after day and year after year talking Utah football, and what's the same story? Well, Drez Anderson and Travis and, man, Utah went to Michigan and we beat them in the Big House. Great. What did that get you? What did that get? You've beat USC twice now. What did that get you? That didn't get you dick. What it got you was 2 losses in the Rose Bowl because your quarterback didn't slide. What it got you was 2 losses in the Rose Bowl because you don't have speed at skill positions on offense. And I don't want to hear about the crappy offensive line, because the offensive line wasn't the problem last night.
No.
Okay, I feel better. I feel
Good.
kind of like I exercised some demons.
Good.
You know.
Excellent.
It's so frustrating.
Yeah, I mean, I think this is what I say. Like, you know what you're going to get out of a Kyle Whittingham-led program. You know what you're going to get. Defense and offense is going to be an afterthought. And it just is. And you're not going to get into the college football playoff. You're going to struggle to win the big game. And you'll mess around and you'll find your way into the Pac-12 championship game, which is what you did this year. So I say, like, I love the Utes. I love what they're doing. I think that they should have already been a college football playoff team, and I think if you had more of an offense, you'd been there already. But you don't. So you haven't been. And that's your reality.
And let's truth tell about Cam Rising.
Yeah.
Is this guy good enough to take this team to the promised land? Man, I don't know that I can say yes to that. I don't know. Because looking at the numbers last night, if we're really being honest, and again, what do we say we are in this show? The truth in Salt Lake Sports Talk.
Yes.
When you come here, you know you're going to get the unvarnished truth. If you want to know the unvarnished truth about Cam Rising, he was not good before the injury.
So get your facts straight.
Let's stop spinning this that Cam Rising is some all-world quarterback. Because the season's over now. And without question, this is a successful football season. There's no doubt about that. You should have had more. You should have been where USC was. You should have been on the precipice of playing for a spot in the college football playoff. But Cam didn't make plays against Florida. And yeah, I can go back to Florida.
Yeah.
And I can say, hey, Cam didn't make plays against Florida. Right? In the Florida game, Cam is 22 of 32 for 216 yards. I said 216 yards on 32 attempts?
Butthole.
That's not,
It's not good enough.
Just saying that's not good enough. And if you look at this kid's game log this year, he had a couple of really good games. Both of them were against USC. And I don't think any of us will ever forget 30 of 44 for what was it? 415 yards and 2 scores.
Yeah.
Nobody will ever forget that. But I'm also now not willing to forget the terrible interception against Florida. I'm also now not willing to accept the 20-17 loss at Oregon, where you were 21 of 38 for 170 yards. 3 interceptions, no touchdowns. I'm not willing to overlook that. Because the problem with these games I'm telling you about, the biggest games of the year, with the exception of USC, who has a horrific defense, with the exception of USC, what big game did he show up and carry this fucking team to a win? Excuse my French.
Oh, the UCLA game. Oh, wait. You didn't
23
do
of
that
32, 287 and an interception.
And a bad fumble. A bad fumble trying to play hero ball running the football.
And it started with Florida and it never ended.
Yeah.
And I that's why I say, like, this question about Cam coming back, man, that's a big question.
Well, if you're Kyle Whittingham, you need Cam Rising to come back. Like, Cam Rising's your guy if you're Kyle Whittingham.
Well, is he, though?
Yeah. What are we sitting here talking about? We're sitting here talking about that. Hear me clearly. I'm not saying that Cam Rising is some all-world quarterback. What I'm saying is that Kyle Whittingham is a defensive-first guy who is willing to accept Cam Rising as his quarterback. And that's fine. I'm not saying that Cam is some garbage quarterback either. He's just not Caleb Williams. He's not the best in the country level quarterback. He's just not. And again, I always find myself being here like, it shouldn't be some crime to say, hey, this guy is not Heisman caliber guy. You're not that guy, pal. You're just not. And that's okay. Because you can still operate. You can still go for 4 bills against USC. You can still go and do things. But when I see bad fumble in the UCLA game, which was incredibly frustrating when it happened at that point in the game, when I see the game that, everyone said ended your season in week 1 at the Swamp, that performance wasn't even close to good enough. And so to me, we need to stop talking about Cam and start talking about Whit. Whit is, as we said on the show, an absolute legend in this state. He's done more than any other coach has done. The only thing left on his resume that's unchecked is a national championship. And you want to know why he doesn't have a national championship? Because at some point, defense only takes you so far. At some point, your defense isn't going to be good enough to hold down the best quarterback in the country, and your offense is going to have to go out and put up a 50 spot to win a game. That's the reality of college football. We saw it yesterday with SC and Tulane. 46-45. What happened? Hey, you've got this all-world offense, but your offense can only take you so far if your defense is nothing. It works just the same way at Utah. Hey, you've got this all-world defense, but when Clark Phillips, the best cornerback in the country, isn't playing, right? And you don't have Brant Keith, you don't have Dalton Kincaid, and Thomas Yasmin can't catch a football to save his life. Turns out your offense isn't so good. That's the problem. You want to know why they haven't won a national championship? That's why. You want to know why they struggled to win the Pac this year? That's why. So that's what I'm saying. Like, don't be surprised anymore. I don't want to see, I love you, Greg, but I don't want to see comments and stuff about how you just want to sleep the week off. Those times are over now, right? Now you know what it is. Now I shouldn't get, like, when we start talking in fall camp again about expectations and what Utah should do and where they should go and what the ceiling is, I don't want to hear college football playoff expectations. I want to hear, hey, Rose Bowl appearance is the expectation. The goal is to win the Rose Bowl or whatever New Year's Six Bowl they get to, as Whit mentioned yesterday, because we all know the Rose Bowl is in a different position now. So that's what I'm saying, dude. Like, I know that we're branded as some BYU show and we drink the blue Kool-Aid, right? There's a reason for that, though, right? I'm not hearing Utah fan coming out today talking about how great the program is because it's not in a great spot. And it's okay to say that. But what we need to shift to is what is going to go down this offseason in the portal with NIL.
Yeah, and I think when you look at the portal and you look at quarterbacks, I mean, Spencer Sanders is clearly the best that's left now. But I mean, what's really frustrating to me, and now it looks like, by the way, Sam Hartman is going to Notre Dame. How about that? Sam Hartman, the Wake Forest quarterback, was arguably the best one that's available. But you have options in the portal. I'm not saying that Cam Rising can't win you games. He can. He's got to be the best version of himself every single week to win you games.
Cam Rising is not going to take you to a Rose Bowl victory with nothing to work with, right? He's not taking Scotty Miller and winning the NFC Championship game. That's not happening, right? So with that in mind, I agree with you. On a baseline, take Cam out of it. On a baseline, this offense is not even close to good enough talent-wise.
And by the way, can we stop comparing BYU and Utah in this conversation? Can we please focus on Utah? I hate the fact that every time we talk BYU or Utah, it's, well, the Utes suck and the Cougars are great. Oh, well, BYU sucks and who cares?
Yeah.
You just lost the Rose Bowl again.
And it wasn't close.
How many chances do you think you're going to get at a relevant Rose Bowl win? Because I got news for you. Coming up in 2 years, I don't know that the Rose Bowl is going to be relevant to the Pac-12 because I don't know that the Pac-12 is going to be here.
Yeah.
At some point, we've got to stop fixating on, well, at least BYU sucks. Because I got news for you. It doesn't matter if BYU sucks. You just lost the Rose Bowl 2 years in a row.
Me?
You just lost the Rose Bowl 2 years in a row. Your quarterback, who should be going to the NFL so you can move into the next iteration of the Utah Ute football program, now probably is not. And frankly, you're going to get damaged goods back when you should be moving on.
Yeah.
Like, if we're being totally honest, you have real fundamental issues offensively, and you've had them for over a decade. That's what the conversation should be. And the frustrating thing is, again, I will just tell you, you should have been where USC was.
And I really feel like we need to add Utah to the conversation of not thinking big enough in this state. Because I don't think that Kyle Whittingham thinks aggressively enough, thinks big picture enough about his program. Meaning that they should be a college football playoff team every single year for the last 3 years. Honestly. Like, Cam Rising's good enough to play in those games, absolutely, right?
Yeah.
But what my problem is when Dalton Kincaid and Brant Keithy are not available to you, and really, it was when Brant tore the ACL in the end zone. Once that play happened, the night that game ended, the mindset for Whit and that coaching staff should have shifted to, okay, we got to recruit our ass off now. I got to go out and I got to get, like, with all due respect to Vele and Money Parks and our guys, we got to go out and get some top-tier talent here. Like, we got to go out and give our guy Cam something to work with. Because I think we would agree, if Cam had an over-the-top wide receiver, someone that the defense had to respect, like, he can get the ball to those guys. He's good enough to distribute. So that's why I say, it, like, as much as I wish that they had a Caleb Williams or, you know, some grade A Heisman caliber quarterback, that's probably never going to happen under Whit. But what's inexcusable is not having top-tier talent at skill positions. Like, Tavion's a great back, right? Mackay is an okay back. Really disappointed in his pass protection yesterday. Really disappointed. Flat out missing blocks in the backfield that result in sacks. Like, just not good enough. But he needs development, so I'll write that guy off, right? But when it was Tavion and you had Brant Keithy and you were developing Vele, and Money Parks was coming along. You felt good because, Brant Keithy was this all-world tight end, and you could always rely on him. And then the injury happens, and it's like, oh, well, we have Dalton. Dalton stepped right into that thing, and you didn't miss a beat. But yesterday, Dalton doesn't play, and neither did Clark Phillips, and obviously Brant's hurt. So that's why I say this conversation, with all due respect to Cam, isn't really about the fact that he probably tore his ACL or whatever ligament damage he has going on. This is about wit. This is about, hey, he's got a legacy to fulfill here. He needs to find that route to a national championship. And the problem is that picture is getting real cloudy with realignment and Amazon deals and just the college football playoff expansion package. Like, it's getting cloudy now because you've been here twice and you've lost both times. And why is your quarterback running? To anyone who disagrees with me, why the hell is Cam Rising running so much? You ever thought and asked yourself that? Yeah, because nobody's open, and he's got 25 yards of green pasture in front of him that lead to him getting hurt. That's the problem, bro.
And I know on Twitter everybody was saying, well, the play calling sucks. Well, the play calling might suck. You can't have your quarterback running like that.
But hold on. Did the play calling suck when you beat USC? That's a cop-out, bro.
It is a cop-out. But, yeah, look, man, this is not Cam Rising's performance is on Cam Rising.
Yeah.
The interceptions, that fumble, he just has not been the same guy this year. I don't know that you could have expected him to live up to those expectations. I just don't. But what I know is there's too much talent in a transfer portal, and you've got to recruit and develop your talent. I heard and I want to say that it was Pat McAfee who said it. The transfer portal is very much like free agency, meaning that, hey, sprinkle in some free agents, but you better develop your talent.
Yes.
And I agree with that. You better recruit and develop talent and then supplement that with transfer portal.
Yeah.
Because if you're like BYU with Keaton Slovis, I'm telling you, this is a huge problem for BYU.
Yeah.
Keaton Slovis is not that guy, pal.
Yeah.
And I look at the fact that you've had 3 years of Zachy Poo and I think, I don't know. The point is, I don't want to go too far with Jaron, but I think you've had the best quarterback in the state for the last 2 seasons.
Yeah.
But guess what? What was he? A running quarterback who couldn't stay healthy, and you had nothing behind him. Mm-hmm. And that's the issue.
And the bigger problem is, not to cut you off, what you had behind him, I actually thought Jacob Conover was a reasonable solution. But you didn't think he was, and you still didn't go and recruit. And, so
you didn't develop him, and now Cade Finnegan's not going to get a chance to start or win the job.
But let's run Soljay out there. Let's run Bryson out there, and let's just live with the results. That's what I'm talking about. That is, that's what I'm saying. We have to add Utah to the list of programs and teams in this state who aren't thinking big enough, man. Go and get it. It's out there.
All right, let's get your thoughts in here because I'm sure there is there are a lot of people wanting to talk about Utah. I see all of you, so please make sure that you comment. We love that you guys are part of the show. We love that you guys participate every single day on the Monty Show, presented by our good friends at The Advocates, UtahAdvocates.com. Again, when you get in a wreck and you need representation, please do not hesitate to go to theadvocates.com.
We got stuck in traffic at a construction zone, and I got rear-ended at 80 miles an hour, so I needed help. They just stepped in and pretty much took care of everything. If you're in a motor vehicle accident or situation, call the Advocates.
Indeed, you should. The Advocates, theadvocates.com. You can chat with a lawyer live online 24/7 at theadvocates.com. All right, Utah loses the Rose Bowl 35-21. The eye patch says Tim Patrick is as close to a number one wide receiver that Utah has ever had. I would agree with that. Tim Patrick was great. And, I look through the recent history. I mean, I think Dres Anderson was spectacular. Kenny Scott was spectacular. But how many guys are real NFL talent wide receivers at Utah?
How long did you live and die on Britton Covey? How long, bro?
Yeah.
How long did we rely on a 5'10", $170 slot receiver to get the job done and also return some punts and kicks? That's Utah football, right? I loved Britton's game. You're not an NFL wide receiver, bro. I got news for you. And he's made a roster, and he's playing special teams, and he's having a career, and that's fine. And I respect the hell out of that. But when we're talking about like number 1, 5-star, like stud wide receiver, they haven't really ever had that. And it does, irk me. Like, where would you be?
Yeah, totally agree. Greg Hawkins. And Greg melted down on Twitter last night. He's like, go buy Skinner, not take it easy. Okay. Greg says that overthrown deep ball was easier when we had game-breaking tight ends to make a play with, but it looked pretty bad yesterday. It did. And I will again say, look at it, even in their loss, if you look at the depth of talent that USC has, they lose 46-45 to Tulane.
In what was a wild game.
And you look, they had Taj Washington is as good as a wide receiver as exists in this league. 5 for 109. Brendan Rice. I said Brendan Rice, right? He's a junior who had a career game. His high was 5 for 62 against Arizona this year and 3 for 72 against ASU. And then he put up 6 for 174 and averaged 29 per catch yesterday with 2 scores.
We built this program on NIL.
Like, you're deep at wide receiver. Mario Williams, your best wide receiver, 6 for 35. Michael Jackson, 4 for 31. Terrell Bynum, 3 for 26. Like, I mean, you have 5-6 guys at USC.
You got guys.
Not to mention Caleb Williams, the Heisman Trophy winner. Not to mention Rayleigh Brown and Austin Jones at running back.
After Dye went down.
Exactly right. Not to mention Caleb Williams. And what did Caleb Williams do a heck of a lot less of yesterday? Run the football. Right? So you have depth. And by the way, how did USC lose that game? How did that happen?
Classic SC, dude.
Tulane. And we had a huge debate about Lincoln Riley on Twitter yesterday.
Yeah.
Is Lincoln Riley ever going to have a defense?
Dude, but here's the thing.
Jeez.
Lincoln is still getting the benefit of the doubt. And you know why he's still getting the benefit of the doubt? This was year 1, dude. Buddy hasn't even taken a sip of his cup of coffee yet, right? And they're in a bowl game against Tulane. Now, they lost, and they didn't win the Pac-12, right? They didn't, by USC standards with Lincoln Riley.
Yeah.
I could make a strong case that this has not been a successful season. But I could also make a strong case that it's been a damn successful season in year 1 to do what they
no
did.
doubt about it.
You know what I mean? So
you were in position until you got beat again by Utah.
So now
you were going to the college football playoff.
But notice the conversation isn't, hey, we don't have talent on the roster, so that's why we lost. No, you lost because you're not playing defense because your head coach is obsessed with 50-point offenses. That's why you're losing games. That's a different conversation than, hey, Dye went out and we don't have someone to backfill him, right? That's different. And that's why I'm saying, don't take this as me being overly negative on Utah. But with all due respect, it's a different thing, right? To me, it's a bigger problem at Utah.
But you cannot, in my opinion.
I know.
In football, you cannot be like, okay, well, we're going to score 50. Let's hope we don't give up more than 49.
That's not what we're about.
That doesn't win anymore. And I think it's why Cliff Kingsbury is a perfect example of that.
Perfect example.
He's a guy that has awesome offenses, and they usually don't stop people defensively.
Final.
Because what happens? Generally, your offense sputters at some point,
and
then your defense isn't good enough. And at USC, your offense is amazing and your defense isn't good enough. You're giving up 50 when you score 49 and you're losing.
Hell out of here with that.
You can't do that. Can't do it. Kendall Dean, Utah's lack of depth at quarterback is very concerning. When Cam went out, it seemed like the Utes gave up. Well, when Cam went out, I agree with Kyle Whittingham, and I want to play this Kyle Whittingham sound again. Because I think this is really significant. As we talk about what changes Kyle Whittingham has to make at Utah to take that next step, which, by the way, what is that next step? Well, it's a spot in the college football playoff. But listen to what Kyle Whittingham says here about what happened when Cam Rising got hurt.
The injury to Cam is a leg injury. Doesn't look good. I can tell you that. We'll wait for confirmation from the medical people at a later date, either tonight or tomorrow. Looks like it could be something that takes a while to recover from. So that's not positive right now. He's such a warrior and such a fierce competitor. He'll be back, I can promise you that, from the injury. Hopefully he's back with us. That's to be determined. But he'll work his way back. And it almost seemed to, we lost a little bit of our mojo when that happened. We had a little bit of a deflation on our team, and that's not the right way to respond. We needed to respond better than we did. And, it's unfortunate that we didn't, that we had the drop-off that we did.
Yeah, Utah Utes head coach Kyle Whittingham right there. And I agree, the team did not respond, which is really unfortunate because I actually think the Pac-12 needed this game. I think if you look at the results of the bowl games, and, yeah, it's neat that you won the San Diego County Credit Union Holiday Bowl. It's neat that you won the Valero Alamo Bowl. But if you look at UCLA losing to Pitt, that was a big loss, right? You look at Penn State throttling Utah, that's a big loss. USC losing to Tulane, that's a big loss. Like, the marquee teams in this conference lost their bowl games. And this doesn't feel like a positive, season of bowls. And the more frustrating thing, if you're a Ute fan this morning, is that Bryson Barnes outperformed Cam Rising last night. 10 of 19, 112 yards, a touchdown and an interception. Cam Rising, 8 of 21, 95 yards, a touchdown and an interception. And you know what, man? It makes you wonder, like, where do you go from here at quarterback? I think that is a very interesting question. I mean, where does this Utah football program go at quarterback?
I don't think that they're going to go anywhere. I think that they're going to run Cam out there if his knee is fine. Like, honestly. And I'm not even trying to hate or be edgy about it. Like, I think that Kyle Whittingham is married to Cam Rising. And I understand that to a certain extent, but again, what I'm struggling with right now is we can sit here and talk about how they need to add skill position talent, how you need to have someone who pushes Tavion, right, at the running back spot, or you need to have someone that can teach, Yasmin how to catch a football when he's wide open. Like, you need to have someone who pushes these guys who start for you. But Witt is not shown to be the guy who wants to go out and recruit prolific skill position talent. He's just not, right? Like, I'm sorry, but he's not. So
yeah, I don't believe that you can have a tight end be your leading receiver.
That's just not possible. Like, you can't say, hey, we want to be a college football playoff team, and then also say our tight end is our leading receiver. Now, you want to say, hey, our tight end's our second leading receiver, Michael Mayer? Yeah, sure, absolutely, dude.
But Michael Mayer, what did Notre Dame win this year? Not a whole lot.
Yeah,
not a whole lot. And I look at the setup when you had both Brandt and Dalton healthy. When you had Keithy and Kincaid healthy, okay, that's a different deal. Those are guys that are two wide receivers, frankly. But if you look at Thomas Yasmin, that's not a leading receiver. And I think a lot of people thought that he could be. He's not that.
Facts.
This is a depth issue.
Yeah.
And I philosophically, you've got to make a change on offense if you're Utah. You have to. Chase Everett says, Lincoln Riley is an offensive coach. Didn't we get a whole spiel about defensive coaches not winning? I wasn't impressed with Riley at Oklahoma. Well, if you're not impressed with Lincoln Riley, I'm not sure what will impress you. Because I think what Lincoln Riley did at Oklahoma and at USC, it is nothing short of astounding. What he did at USC this year was nothing short of spectacular.
Yeah.
And I agree that their defense is bad, and he historically has not been a great defensive coach. I'll take Lincoln Riley on my sideline anytime he wants.
Yep.
I'm happy to do it. And if you have a coaching vacancy in this country and Lincoln Riley says yes, you're hiring him.
I want it.
You're hiring him. If you're not impressed with Lincoln Riley, what's going to impress you?
Yeah.
I mean, the guy is like the thing that I don't understand is how many Nick Sabans are there? How many are there? Because, again, this is why I tell you Dabo Swinney is a fraud. Dabo Swinney is not Nick Saban, right? How many?
In God's name, image, and likeness.
How many Kirby Smarts are there? Because I think Kirby's right there today with Nick Saban.
How many guys from TCU are there? right?
I mean, Sonny Dykes is awesome.
Doesn't Sonny get a ton of credit? Don't you have to say, hey, Sonny just led the first Big 12 team to the college football playoff, right?
Lincoln Riley doesn't impress me.
Yeah, it's that's
crazy.
That tells me you didn't watch Jalen Hurts, you didn't watch Kyler, you didn't watch, those guys in their heyday in college, and you don't understand just how damn good Lincoln Riley's offense has to be contending for a conference championship with basically nothing on the defensive side.
Do you understand that? And I believe he went to 3 college football playoffs, and I agree he lost. He went to 3 college football playoffs, and he won the Big 12 4 times.
Yeah. So
what do you mean Lincoln Riley isn't impressive? Like, this is the problem.
Yeah.
This is the problem. If Lincoln Riley's not impressive to you, I'd love to understand what's impressive to you.
Go play intramurals, brother.
I don't know what else you need from Lincoln Riley outside of a championship to be like, damn, that kid, he knows what he's doing. He's 39 years old.
And if it's a thing, and I'm not saying it is, but if it's a thing, Chase, where it's like, oh, well, he's the head coach at SC, so I'm not going to say nice things, then just say that.
I wasn't impressed with, what did he say? I wasn't impressed with Riley at Oklahoma. Are you out of your mind?
I don't know what. Yeah, sorry, man.
Lincoln, and let me just explain to you that Lincoln Riley is at Oklahoma was 55-10. You jamoke. He was 37-7 in conference. Go play intramurals, brother.
Go play intramurals, brother.
Like, are you serious? Oh, I wasn't impressed with that.
You fucking donkey.
I don't know, Lincoln Riley. What, you couldn't have been 56-9? Prick.
No.
Are you serious?
Yeah, man.
Are you serious?
That's what I say.
My God.
So I'm saying, love Whit. You got work to do, brother. You got work to do.
He's never lost more than 2 games in a conference, ever. I said he's never lost more than 2 games in conference, ever.
If I said to you, hey, Lincoln Riley, what did you say his record was?
55-10.
Hey, if I'm 55-10 and I only have 11 guys on offense and I'm not playing defense, you're telling me you wouldn't be impressed by that? Because that's essentially what it is. He does not play defense. You understand that they're a zone-based defense that regularly gets their zone wrong, which is why Tulane was going absolutely B2 bomber on their ass over the top all day yesterday.
By the way, who's the offensive coordinator at TCU?
Jesus.
Anybody know who the offensive coordinator at TCU is?
Hey, come on.
Garrett Riley, his brother.
Bro.
Lincoln's brother. Like, are you... Guy.
And then you want to wonder why Duggan was Dugganing all weekend. Come on, man. Come on.
We really did.
Oh, my God. Okay, that's fine.
I love you guys, but let's not be silly about Lincoln.
Do we know college football at all?
No, we're dumb. We're clear. Yeah.
I was not impressed with Riley at Oklahoma.
What are you talking about?
Guy, anyway, Greg Hawkins says Washington probably would have beat Penn State and could have been the best team in the conference this year. Well, that's an actually interesting question.
Yeah.
Who's the best team in the Pac-12? Right now, if I said to you the best football team this past season in the Pac-12 was...
Oregon. Yeah.
God, Doug.
Which sucks, because I don't even like Oregon.
Yeah, Oregon was the best team.
No, I'm not an Oregon guy at all.
I think Oregon... now, obviously, guys opting out of bowl games, how much better is the Ute defense if Clark Phillips is there? I probably
and
not.
We're sitting here.
We're
sitting here watching this game unfold, and you're like, "All right, this game's over. It's 10 minutes left in the third. This game's over." You knew that. You knew it was over. Gift wrap the thing and hand it off to next year. You knew that. But we're sitting here well, hey, if Dalton had played,
if Hubert wasn't, pointing his hips.
Oh, wait.
To
So
Tijuana instead of a wide receiver.
Bro, did Hubert even play? Because they were so open down the field. I'm not sure he was on the field. That's what I mean. This is my problem, dude. And I know we're all fired up today, and we have good reason to be. But we just sat here and talked about how Kyle Whittingham is a defensive first guy. But then not 5 minutes later in the conversation, we have to have a conversation about Buddy regularly getting burned over the top again and again. And by the way, it should be said, he's got a C on his chest, so it's completely unacceptable.
I'm amazed by it.
Come on, man.
Yeah.
And that's why I think Ute fans are so frustrated today and probably don't want to talk about it, because it's like you didn't lose 46-45, right? It wasn't like, oh, well, Cam threw for 400 and, we've got a couple turnovers and we feel good about how we lost here, right? Because that's a thing in sports, right? Hey, you lost the game, but you feel good about it. That's not what happened here. You got your ass kicked yesterday, and the defense didn't look too good doing it, and that's what's frustrating. That's what's frustrating as a Utah fan.
Yeah, I love Sean Murzinski says Chase Lincoln isn't the issue. Grinch and his crappy defense is.
Thank you.
I agree with that. D-Rock Irish. Good morning, D-Rock. Agree the tight end of Mayer was our leading receiver. Not a good situation. Wide receivers were hungry trying to get a ball thrown to them. Yeah, and again, this is why I said Drew Pine shouldn't be an option. If you are BYU, Drew Pine should have never even been in the conference. And there's no bigger Notre Dame fan, maybe D-Rock is, but there's no bigger BYU fan. Hello? There's no bigger Notre Dame fan than I, and I'm telling you Drew Pine shouldn't have ended up at BYU. Like, that was a break. Well, then your default was Keaton Slovis, so maybe Drew Pine's a better option. See what happened.
Drew Pine and college football playoff don't belong in the same county.
Oh, my God. Yeah. Eric and Raleigh says Riley won too much at Oklahoma.
Thank you.
Seriously.
Thank you.
Josh Lovern says Chase be like Lincoln should have been 65-0 with 3 natties. He'd been above average at that point.
You like how Lovren worked in the phrase natty instead of national championship?
Yes. Yes, I do. Daniel Olson, has Kyle Whittingham's Utes reached their peak, or is there a college football playoff berth in the future? That's a great question. And I think I'm not the guy that's ever – I made that mistake in 2013 or 2014 saying maybe Kyle's not the guy. Kyle Whittingham's the guy. The question is he willing to change up stylistically? Because and one of the things, and I wish somebody would ask him this, like, does he embrace the college football, transfer portal? Does Kyle Whittingham embrace NIL?
We built this program on NIL.
Because we've heard him talk about it, and not in a positive manner.
Mm-hmm.
Was that directed at the U, or was that directed at the system? Because, again, and I don't mean to, I know I talked about this a lot yesterday. If you're not watching the Prime docuseries about Deion Sanders, all those cameras that follow him around is because he makes a docuseries about himself.
Program.
And it's on Prime Video.
Yeah.
And Nick Saban ripped Deion Sanders for signing a kid to $1 million, Hunter. Nick Saban ripped him for that.
Fucking A.
In the docuseries, they make this Aflac commercial together. The Deion Sanders, Nick Saban Aflac commercial.
Yeah.
Well, they sit down and talk to each other about Nick Saban ripping Deion Sanders.
Don't be rude.
And Nick was like, dude, I don't have a problem with you. I have a problem with the system. And Sanders was like, I love you, coach. I don't have a problem with what you said. You're not wrong.
Don't you know who I am?
It's fascinating. And the question is, does Kyle Whittingham embrace the portal and NIL? Because if he does, you can turn this around very quickly.
Don't lie to me.
Because he's got a really good – Lander Barton balled his ass off last night.
Yeah.
Like, he's got talent. Cole Bishop is legit, bro. He's got the Fano brothers coming in. Like, the O-line is – Jim Harding is still one of the best offensive line coaches nobody even knows exists in this country. They've got to get more skill position
that's what
players.
I'm saying, dude. Cam Rising didn't bust up that knee yesterday because the offensive line sucks. The offensive line is really good, right?
Yeah.
Like, the issue is he has no one to throw the football to.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Get with the program here.
Greg Hawkins says, we lost badly. Penn State came out after halftime and dominated. Felt like 2019 Texas, correct?